Yeah, I mean, I'm like just floored that they were able to get this bill through. I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting time period. And I think that's why I like talking about policy, and I think of it as solution based conversations because um, when governors are definitely going for elections, there's definitely it's a good time to talk to them about anything. In particular, this governor, who is Gavin Newsom, and also the governor in Georgia seem to be really open to got a project. Well, might have to have a conversation. So, I mean, I think that is really something that we should definitely be talking to our brothers and sisters in California and say, hey, do you know about this and you know, how have we been able to, you know, let other people know about it, but also make sure that we support, the brothers and sisters that push to get this bill done and signed. A lot of times we complain about, the political process, and when we get something like this, we want to make sure it's passed around and folks know. Um, I don't know, Brother Charlemagne, you think this could get passed in North Carolina? Straight up, straight up. He wasn't even trying to he was like, nope, Martin.
Nah.
Yep. Nope.
I just really really go down here. We just different. When it comes to stuff like that.
I mean, I think you're not worse in South Carolina, and their penal system is off the chain.
Yeah, not worse there, but
it's still
totally behind.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, totally behind.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. Well, I was trying to give y'all a pass. I was just trying to, Charlemagne. Charlemagne's like, nah, nigga. Nope.
I'll tell you how I'll say I think we just got the lottery here maybe what 7 years ago. It hasn't been that long. I mean, this state is pretty tight. Almost every state around us has legalized marijuana, and we're still like do. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's not legal, it's still locked up, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You think it has anything? You think it has anything to do with the the Bible Belt? We'll say.
Oh, yeah, that. Plus, you got to think, probably about 15, 20 years ago, they built 10 new prisons in the state of North Carolina.
10?
All of them,
wow.
$75 million a piece.
My God.
So 750 million? So a billion. They spent $1 billion.
They built 10 new prisons, yeah.
For $1 billion.
$75 million a piece.
Wow.
So think about that.
Yeah, I'm trying not to, but dang. 10? Jesus Christ.
Throughout the state. Yep.
Oof. Yeah, I guess that this
full of fat.
Yeah, this is not gonna pass. That's not gonna pass.
Yeah, you know what I'm
in North Carolina. I'm sad. That's not. Well, as it brothers and sisters say. I think the one thing about
God, just keep on focusing on the Creator that created us, snatching it all back, and then redoing and coming back again. That's what I look to. I ain't even lying. Shivering crickets, because it's really, if you think about it long enough, you lose your mind. So you got to think about something positive. Blow it up, start all over again. That's all I can say about
it. Yeah. So you sound like the kids that keeps the. So I hear what you're saying, but there are people, and I'm not disagreeing with that. Change isn't drastic change isn't necessary and needed. But I am going to say, while we're here, while the system is going on, we don't have to suffer.
Yes.
And what I like for us to be able to do is do both. Do Du Bois and Booker T. You don't have to choose one or the other. as a resource. So I think one of the things I was going to is that as California leads the nation in different initiatives, and then it seems like New York picks it up next, right? And then it takes 2 to 5 years to kind of trickle through the rest of the states. In some case, 10 years, you know, i.e. Arizona, South Carolina, you know, whatever. But I think that at least in my lifetime, it seems you get California to do it, you get New York to do it, and then you start pushing it in weird, off-beaten places that, for whatever reason, you know, it could be that they need more workers in different fields, and their records, you know, are stopping them from having a better workforce, even though they've been a traditionally law and order, you know, state. And I think that's one of the cool things that we're able to do when you do have these situations, is that push California to do something, get New York to do it, and now look for Idaho or, you know, I don't know, Utah, or, you know, and then there's a little bit of pressure on other states who like, wait a minute, if they doing it, and or Oklahoma, like Oklahoma's oil and stuff, even though it's horribly destroying the land. My point is that Texas doesn't want to lose oil rig people to Oklahoma. Here, Oklahoma has, hey, we're gonna go ahead and expunge all of our criminal former and incarcerated criminal records. Then Texas goes, hold up, wait a minute, we got the same thing. Stay right here, you know. And I think that's a strategy, like the selfishness. And to your point, Auntie Cheryl, you always say the criminal capitalist system that was designed to take from people could be, I'm not saying all the time, but it could be flipped on its head rather, because it's selfish, looks for itself, you know, in its own self-interest. And it's in the best self-interest that they expunge people record, because now they get a better workforce, quote unquote. So I don't know. I think there's a strategy there while we're still here dealing with this effed up situation. There's stuff we could do.
Yeah, I know that. I'm glad you said that. While we're still here, I tend to want to focus on that, because we do have to, you know, the easy way out wouldn't be the best way probably, but you know, when I think about 10 prisons, like you said, 75 million a piece, and then what runs through my mind is what just happened here in Los Angeles with a father who took his son to take some jewelry from a rapper. Like, it is so toxic, and it's because of the greed and the way it was all set up. So I will hold out for good things, and things are changing while we're still here. But that easy way out would be okay with me, because it is really a time to be living right now. And my heart bleeds for our babies. It's, you know, really getting set up with this to just beat the private prison system. Slavery was not abolished, enslavement was not abolished, it was polished. So, y'all hold out hope for me today. Pastor Mike.
Auntie Cheryl has some sayings, y'all. That slave is not abolished, it was polished. Woo! That's a t-shirt. That's a hashtag t-shirt and a website.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brother Charlamagne.
But yeah, what I was going to say, I'm just curious to look at the demographics of the 3-year window that they were talking about.
Yep.
You know, I'm just.
I think we lost you.
Right there, because every foot someone would, you know, because, you know, out there, you know, things are kind of wild. So it could have been a kid, you know, 18, 19, doing something crazy, then they split their life up. But it could have been those kids from Beverly Hills, you know.
Right. The ones that was robbing the celebrities. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I reached out to the brother that posted on LinkedIn, who he's one of the instrumental people getting that, you know, getting it built to where it's at. So I think that it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I want to jump to the Cheryl's thing. I want to jump to this article from Business Insider, which is kind of a weird place to get a Black politics headline from or Black policy headline from, but nevertheless, it falls right in line with what Auntie Cheryl is saying. So the next generation, according to the headline, Gen Z, and I've been saying this for a minute, they are done waiting their turn for political office. They are now this. I'm like, why you gotta put this man's name in your headline? You know, it's just that I think the headline was on one side genius and on the other side super disrespectful. They're taking on the John Lewis generation. Come on, can't we say Clyburn generation? You know, can't we say no disrespect, sure, Michelle? But I'm just saying, can't we say Clyburn? You know, the John Lewis generation, they're gone. They ain't even here. Like, come on. They haven't. The John Lewis generation got beat down. Like they were frontline warriors. They rested peacefully. Business Insider tearing up our ancestors, not even here anymore. Come on, son, stop. I get what you're trying to say, writer, and I guarantee it was a young Black millennial. But still, like, it's like, come on. Anywho, one of the things about the article is that I found very, very interesting is they talk about how they're going to run even though they don't have cash or clout. I was like, okay, young people, get out there and do it. And I think that I'm here for it. I'm definitely here for it. I know I was going to give Michelle a call because they do bring South Carolina up quite frequently throughout this article. So I didn't just invoke Mr. Clyburn for no reason, but you know, yeah, I I don't know. This the picture they show of the sister who's 31, millennial, Gen Z, that's millennial. Challenge Representative Danny K. Davis, who's 83. So a 31-year-old challenging 83-year-old. Listen, I'm all for. I think these old folks stay in power way too long. As they show this headline, but it's not just Black old people; it's white old people too. So, yeah. Anyway, welcome to the stage, Sister Michelle. How are you doing? I know you're in South Carolina. Before we get into what you wanted to say, how's everything in South Carolina?
Well, personally, we're okay. There are people that did sustain some damage, down trees, power outages, and flooding. But for the most part, it's still a category 1 in the state of South Carolina. So that's a hurricane for you. It was almost a 5. It probably was 5 to hit Florida. Went across Florida. It was still a category 1 when it hit South Carolina, meaning it moved north. So it reminds me every day why I became a civil engineer. So that's
last thing you say. It reminds you every day of what?
Of why I became a civil engineer.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's deep. That's deep.
But to answer to address the topic, I completely understand why people are still trying to run against him, and I do agree. Not a lot has changed in this area. Because I do live in this district, we've had a decline in jobs, decline in residents in here. My hometown, we've lost 20% of our residents in the last 20 years, which is huge when you already have a small county. But also, what does that do when the hub zone is the whole county, right? It's not a city, it's the whole damn county. And so it's really important to understand a few things about, like you said, running for office. I think a lot of young people should run for office, but they also have to understand, like you said, the financial aspects of running for office. Number 2, who really goes to vote and how they have to connect with that audience. So if your grandparents and your parents, right, are the ones who go to vote and you're on social media, you're doing podcast interviews and they're still reading the paper, you have a disconnect. And so understanding how to connect with the real voters in your area is going to be important. And number 2, how to get that level of respect, because they're going to look at you like, whose child was the baby? Now, baby, go over there and get a little diaper and some wipes, because you're not going to have that respect for them. And so you have to build up that reputation with the audience that votes. And so while they're doing, I see there's a huge disconnect in who really turns out to vote or do mail-in ballots and them not understanding how to quite connect with them because they use social media and they haven't used phone calls. And this is what I mean. There was a young brother who is, I want to say he's down in Hilton Head area. But anyway, he was running for office here in the state of South Carolina. How did I find out he was running? They ended up texting me and calling me the week of the election, or a few days before the election. I didn't know who dude was. I eventually looked at his page to see what his platform was while he was running. And it was fine. But it was so late in the game. It's like, cute, nice website, nice, clean website. But you literally are calling me and getting me to know who you are within a week or less than a week before election day. And so guess what I got after that? I get the mail. It was a mailer. Guess what? It would have been great if you had started this a month before, 2 months before. Maybe again, he didn't have the money for that and was using social media as a platform to do it. And so I think there's a huge disconnect. So understanding how to use radio, TV, and mail really to connect with voters and understanding who's going out to rock the vote, for those of us that remember that, right? And really connect with them. And I see that's a huge disconnect for millennials and Gen Zers because phone calls don't work. Text messages, I'm probably going to unsubscribe because I don't want to hear, it's too much noisy. And so really understanding how to connect with the voters is going to be a huge deterrent for them outside of money because because they can get on television, they can get on radio for free, a lot of those things for free or low cost, but they don't know how to get on that Sunday or going to the churches, right, and get on the Sunday morning gospel show to promote. And I think that's where we're going to see a huge disconnect in them trying to get the vote. And this is Michelle, and I'm done.
Thank you, Michelle. In the article, it's a pretty long article and pretty interesting. As Michelle was talking, I was thinking one thing when I looked at, Clive Warren's age, some of the others, Maxine Waters' age, and you said, Michelle, about somebody saying to a young person, "Go, baby, go on, get in that corner." Listen, totally agree that you got to read the room. You got to know your audience, right? You know who's the voter, right? The challenge I have, though, is that these folks don't ever seem to want to mentor or create a political legacy outside of family and friends working for them. And so it's always it's never somebody waiting in the wings. Well, at least I shouldn't say never. Local politics, I've seen it happen in Brooklyn, in Houston, where older Black, seriously connected political people have mentored the next coming. And I also saw it happen in the mayor's race in Atlanta. But Kasim wasn't 86 years old. I'm talking about folks who was in their 70s and in their 80s, and they refuse to, they don't mentor the person coming up next for their seat. I'm not talking about somebody coming up 25 years from now. They gone, and then somebody gets up there. I was mentored by, Conyers for like 25 years ago. And you're like, to your point, you don't even know who the heck they talking about anymore. Unless, of course, it's like a John Lewis or something like that. But my point is just that when I look at this list on this site, and I look at the politician's age, I'm like, come on, y'all do need to retire. And what's interesting in this article is that 66% of Black Americans, according to this survey, also believe there needs to be age limits for members of Congress. I think it should be age limits, period. And if there's not an age limit, make it a mandatory mentorship. Like, I need to see y'all mentoring the next generation with this intention to hand over the reins. And that's something I almost never see. But I have seen it in certain places, in certain positions. So, any thoughts on that, Brother Charlamagne? What's up?
Oh, yeah.
It was in the cabinet. Oh, I know.
Like you said, when it's growing the younger generation to take their place. And I think it should be an age limit on a lot of these positions. If you go way back when, look at the guy we had from North Carolina, Jesse Helms. That joker stayed in there till he was like almost 100 years old. So I definitely think they should have a strategic plan, especially to help our people, when it comes to politics. Start grooming these younger guys, and like you said, make sure these younger people have a direction, which they really don't. Sometimes, like you said, like Michelle was saying, they'll start a week or two ahead of time, and they try to use that microwave mentality, like I'll contact you right before so it'll be fresh, but then no one knows who you are. They don't know what position, where you stand. So how can I vote for you? So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think when you talk about civil rights activism, it's a lot different, right? Like this focus on civil rights activists. I wish it was a little bit more wider and focused on young black politicos, because this weekend, was CBC, and Congressional Black Caucus has a event week all week, and then they have a party on Saturday, and they have this morning prayer breakfast. So all week long, all the Congressional Black Caucus members meet, and their constituents may travel to DC, and it's sort of like South by Southwest for Black politicians. And it's definitely gotten, COVID happened, but before COVID, it was waning. Once Obama was leaving, it became way less popular than it used to. And I think even before Obama, it was still more popular, because I believe the power in politics has shifted. And so you can do a lot, to your point, Charlamagne, with the microwave pop-up scenario, but that pop-up needs to happen a year or even sometimes 8 months before. And I don't think that activists necessarily take that lens. They're in the streets every day, they're hearing people talk every day, so you think stuff all the time, but you may not realize you're kind of in a silo. You're in the streets of people who actually want to talk to you, and actually there's streets to change. Like Sister Michelle said, my candidate, he was in his 40s, and he fought with the person he eventually replaced and became a mentee of. Meaning he went up against him for his seat in the city council. But my candidate, what he did was every single week he visited 4 senior citizen centers. I'll tell y'all, one thing I have a lot of problems with when it comes to Al Sharpton is that Al Sharpton from Harlem ran a candidate in Brooklyn that was basically funded by the slumlords of Brooklyn / the city community. And it was just really troubling that, we would walk up to Harlem and try to run a candidate in Harlem. People look at us like, what the heck? But my candidate won he had 60,000 in his budget. And this was a regular person who just wanted to make sure he ran for a city council seat. And the guy he ran against had 600,000. And the only reason we won was because my candidate went every single week for 2 years to visit and feed and talk to the senior citizens. So he was in the side, kind of, because he talked to the voters every single week. But they knew Robert. They knew him. Also, he is literally, he's 7 feet tall. So that's a big, thing. Tallest guy in politics. And he's also the guy who came and made sure you have food and you can food. That said, Robert was on social media every single day. He was Facebooking, tweeting. Instagram wasn't very popular when Robert ran, but if it was, he would have been on Instagram. So I want to just say that, I think you can do both. You can be in a silo, talk to certain people, but I don't think you can talk to people who are just in one side of the city or one section of the city. I think you got to have a little bit of both. I don't know if anybody read out the article around the Baltimore mayor, but he has a great article about his afro and, his youth. And I love the Baltimore mayor because he shows, He's one of those young guys who came up through the ranks, but yet still he connects really spiritually, you know, with that afro to a lot of older folks. so, so I love anything he time he does a profile. Brandon Scott, I'm trying to remember his name. Yeah, I love Brother Scott, boy, because he. I don't know, maybe this is not it, but I feel like Brandon has an old soul. So I don't know if anybody with that video where the guy tried to heckle him while he was doing a press conference. He stopped his press conference and was like, "Come on, brother, come on! Like, you see how we was giving a press conference?" Reminded me of something I saw in Newark in the late 80s. Anywho, so this is our article. Brother, our guest of evening joins us, Brother Colin. Welcome to Your Black News. We were just discussing this article here about young Black activists say they're done waiting for their turn for political office. I really don't like this headline, Colin. And before we get to that, I did let me introduce you properly. Welcome to the show, Brother Colin. Can you tell everybody who you are and what you do for a living?
Thanks, Martin. My name is Tenji Colin. I'm the bureau chief in Washington for a news magazine, I guess live show, just the news media itself, TMZ, and just been in the business for a long time. Worked inside of Washington on Capitol Hill, worked with a lot of the politicians, celebrities, athletes, and just really understand the mechanics of the movements of just the real structure and how things go kind of inside Washington, all over some of the power plays, and just just been a part of the culture for a long time in a way of from the outside looking in, and now getting to see a lot of different things. So just appreciate you, Martin, and what you bring to the table, and just having long discussions with you and finding out it's not always just about the headlines. It's the other things that really pertain to our people and what we should be knowing, and I think it's so important. So just wanted to be able to be here and chime in on some of the discussions as well.
Absolutely appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule on a Sunday to be with us. If you haven't checked out Colin's profile, definitely check it out. I do want to talk about your 2 million view video that you have on Instagram of the police car hitting the police barrier. I also want to talk about when you ran up on TikTok, when you ran up on Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and also Bernie Sanders. So, but before we get there, we're discussing this headline. I know Sister Slaughter came up. I'm gonna come right to you after I ask Colin this question, Sister Slaughter. So Colin, from your years on the Hill, I know the next generation is chomping at the bits to take over. My only concern is that they may not, know the inside scoop. Like, you were there when AOC first arrived. You watched her grow in her position. And do you think a virtual outsider, they're known back home because they're on the streets, they're getting everybody riled up. But when they come to DC and they actually have to get on these committees and actually make deals and try to represent their districts, do you think it's hard for an outsider who's never been groomed by an older politician to make an impact?
Yeah, it's definitely, like they say, a lot of politics going on when you stand for something and then you actually, you run on, a course and you actually come on. You gotta start really believing in it yourself and fighting for it, but staying true to, I guess, your side and your district and what you got to get from them. And speaking of AOC, she's one of the few people who actually, she stood on, what she believed and came up there, from day one when she actually, I think she had even a protest before she was even signed in for inauguration for her. and she went with the people who are protesting against Nancy Pelosi on an issue, and she came and stood with them. And she's been like that from day one, but she still was able to find herself on some of the strongest seats, which she's on right now, and, have her voice. And not only that, I think she's in charge. Well, she runs a lot when it comes to, donations as far as money coming in and passing it on to other, Democratic candidates to show that, she spoke, her voice still gets, the donations like a lot of people. That's what they for most of the time. As much as soon as they get elected in, it's just like they're still campaigning for the next 2 years right afterwards. And she's been one of the few, but I'm starting to see a lot of them that are, they don't jump right off board as soon as, they start becoming an insider in Washington, and they still figure out ways of how they can take care of their district as well.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Sister Slaughter, welcome to the stage. How are things in Jersey? I know the rain didn't hit you yet, or I don't think it hit you yet, did it?
It's not bad at all.
Okay.
We're pretty much out of wood.
Okay.
Well, how's everybody doing?
We're doing pretty good. Glad you could join us. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I put in the chat that I think that for campaigning for term limits is the easy no than the age discussion. And part of my reason for that is based on my experience working with companies that were dealing with multiple different generations and trying to create some type of balance either during succession planning or just trying to make sure that they collaborative nature and you're dealing with like 2 to 3 different generations that have to work together. I see it better instead of having the age discussion where the oldest generation feels like they're being pushed out and the youngest generation feels like it's their time. And there's so much emotion on both sides. There are term limits. It creates a buffer where you can't blame one for pushing you out based on age, which also reveals a lot of insecurities and breeds feelings of scarcity and inadequacy on something that you really can't control, versus taking it as a succession with term limits. It's inherent that you start planning and preparing, and it lends better to creating a legacy or a lineage for those that are in office, and helps to usher in or invite those that are in the office or holding that leadership position to go ahead and proactively, as they are working through their day-to-day for whatever their charge or mission is, to also at the same time build in some type of pipeline and mentorship as a part of the responsibilities that they have. If you do it based on like they're always going to put in the back burner and not see the priority to help bring in that next line in succession.
That's very interesting. I appreciate your perspective on that. Term limits for me are problematic only because Americans usually want 2 terms or 3 terms. And, honestly, it takes, in my estimation, it takes about 4 terms for most people to get a solid handle on their power to help and make a difference. So I don't think Americans have an appetite for term limits of 5 to 7 terms, so but it could be a thing. I definitely hear what you're saying about, age. Although, I mean, I just gotta say, I'm sorry, at 81, I don't need you to be fighting for us in Congress. I need you to be relaxed, maybe doing some calisthenics and some, I just think I think you
Swimming, some swimming.
Well, I also think you could be your knowledge and your wisdom could be used in a lot of different places than dealing with this BS that we call, some people say politics. And I think it doesn't make me feel good to know, that we're all depending on 85-year-olds to deal with. Like it's just that's disrespect. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just feel like at a certain age, it's like, come on, son. Like we need you to relax, chill, not chill in the sense and not do work. I'm saying chill with the blood pressure. Like, there's another article we're not going to talk about tonight, just simply because it's not really black. But there's several articles that put out the last 2 months, but definitely last week. Politicians, our lives are being threatened daily now. People are getting death threats every single day. That's ridiculous. And I guess we're at the point, crucible in our country, and it's par for the course. But I'm not really cool with thinking about Maxine Waters thinking that she has to keep her head on a swivel. It's like, I mean, I'm not saying she shouldn't, but I'm saying that I'm not comfortable in a society. So I am for, at a certain age, this is not the place for, in a sense, not that you shouldn't be an advisor, not that you shouldn't be a lobbyist. I'm just saying the day-to-day, having that staff, having to go to make the votes, having to go to all these meetings. Then, some of these committees are secret committees because they're dealing with national security or, the national disasters. That's a lot. And I get it. America is that place where they're going to run you to the ground. I don't know. I'm just not.
No, I think you get to make choices in life. And when you've done something so long, been there so long, then it becomes your identity. And so many people do not know how to detach that and download the wisdom, and play another lane. And I think that's what happens, when you got someone that age that is, even Auntie Maxine. It just, when do you stop driving even? Who tells you to stop driving? So it really becomes an identity for a person. And without it, they don't feel whole. And that's a great lesson for all of us in the room that, I always say, until you already know you somebody, you never gonna be nobody. Success can only be found inside. So that's the only thing I can think of, someone that age that's not attempting to school aside. They've
Yeah.
like,
I get it. Maybe it's also because public relations background, so the language and the word we can certain things that maybe count the overall goal. And I definitely think if you're in your 80s, your season for your innovation and some of the ideas and things like that has probably passed. But my concern is the relationship from the seniors or veterans and how they do the knowledge transfer and pass on the torch so that it's a public and private succession process, passing of the torch. And it probably also, I feel like the industry being in my 40s and when I was in my 30s, in some industries, if I hadn't already got to the C-suite, what I'm saying? Because I had to compete with someone that was in their early 30s because they're looking at how many years that they can actively do certain things. And when you think of it compared to other industries, it makes you more cognizant of the language and how you're dealing with people that may be older or above the age where you would want them to be the most active in whatever you want to do. Like I can remember coming to and the Reverend was he was trying to create like a leadership to train young people up into some of the leadership and ministry roles. And all he kept thumping on was how old people needed to move out of the way and give space to these younger people. And if I'm an older person, that's not an invitation. You tell me move out of the way. You need to create some type of process that allows for between the two different generations, and everybody's understanding of what is old may be different because in certain industries or certain experiences, you may be old by the experiences that you've been a part of, or the life event or the world event, whereas it might not be your age per se. So I just think that it doesn't have to be specific to term limits, but I do think focusing on the age is not going to create the bridge between the younger people who have the energy, have the creativity, and the innovation. It's not going to be as exciting for the older generations to pass down the wisdom and create a space versus feeling like they're being pushed out.
I got you. I appreciate that. Brother Don. Oh, I got sure.
I was just going to say, you know, again, when it becomes your identity and you've done something for so long, you know, yes, you feel like, oh, well, I'm older, they're trying to get rid of me. When in actuality, we have to make decisions as we grow older. There's no book to this. I'm actually 63. I get it. I'm in that generation where I always say I'm too old to quit. But we know age is a factor. And people slow down. You know, I'm going in a positive, so I'm feeling great over here. But reality is we have to have, you know, the mindset to say to ourselves also. But when something becomes, you're so identified with going to work every day and doing this, it's very challenging to look at someone younger and feel the need to mentor them. You know, I catch heck from older women. I always say that. When I'm constantly, my job is to make sure my dresses are not too short. In my mind, I'm just like, I got a role model for the younger ones. I embrace my younger generation. I don't get that a lot from older women. But age is a factor, and we have to be real with that. And where you got to tell yourself, okay, now it's time for me to just play another lane. It's not about being pushed out, right? It's not just another lane.
And we are all imperfect, I think, and so language definitely has to how we position the quote unquote the A word versus the term word. You know, it could be definitely interesting, and I appreciate language does push or motivate or deter people. So that was a great, both of you great points. Did want to talk what Don said in the chat was very interesting. Don, you brought up a point around status quo, and what's really interesting to me about this article, it brings out how the Congressional Black Caucus was designed to disrupt the status quo of white men, you know, ruling Congress, right? So some 40 years later, the Congressional Black Congressional Black Caucus, really supported a lot of the candidates who are older, and almost none of the young candidates who are in Congress now were supported by the Congressional Black Caucus. And so it makes it an awkward, you know, situation when the younger person wins and comes to Congress. There's no, so we talk about no succession plan. It's also not an embracing plan. You know, they don't just roll out the red carpet. All right, young, you did it. You beat our friend. You know, it's like, so all of it is problematic, and I don't know.
That money, dude, that's a whole nother factor.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, because I know what AOC said. It was like, she was like, I can't afford to live in DC. So even though she had the budget, she's looking at, you know, trying to pay people a living wage. And in my estimation, most candidates, or not candidates, politicians, they at least the black ones have a smaller staff, so that everybody kind of eats, not eats well, but just eats. I don't know if you've seen that, Colin, in your observation of the, you know, the black congressional candidate, black congressmen, congresswomen, or congresspersons. They usually, to me, don't have the same size staff as the white politicians.
Yeah, I've seen it. And it's been a big talk on about that, and that's something I never really understood, because they all have kind of the same budget though, and you know, it's what they allocate a lot of the funds to. And I think that even with the living conditions, I think they're, you know, that the budget that they use compared to, you know, their donations, what they get for running another campaign, but their staff are usually, you know, I want to say it's not half the size, but it's almost kind of in that range compared to someone like a hot shot, new congresswoman, congressman that just comes in, and you look at it and then you figure that they're just trying to something like that. And what you hear, it is a big difference. I don't know how. And another thing, just as you guys were talking about the other topic, one thing I will say, which you didn't bring up aside from the age, is the physical condition. And what happens a lot of times, and I see it with so many, other congressmen, senators, their physical condition and just the gruel of traveling, every week, people who live in, they gotta come back. That's, that traveling twice a week and, those hours and then coming in and then going back on the hill and having to do all the walking, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then you expect them to go in there and just, really work hard and stuff like that. It's just like you look at it and it's just like, they're not really putting in the work. They're just like, just tapping in their card at the end of the day for real.
Yeah. This is really interesting. Like I said, I was surprised that Business Insider did such an in-depth article. One of the things they talk about, which I hadn't keyed in on, was this is kind of a surface article. They bring up what's interesting is the subheaders in the article are making good points. The actual piece that they actually write underneath the subheading is like, dude, you need to flesh this out a little more. But anyway, they give it 1 or 2 examples and they move on to the next topic. And so one of the things they talk about is the gatekeeping is real. But before that, I didn't realize, I remember it, but I don't remember it. Jamil Bowman, who was elected in 2020, he beat this congressman who was 73. Jamil's 44, and to represent New York's 16th district. And of course, that was a big deal because the Congressional Black Caucus has supported Eliot Engel, and that's the 73-year-old. Once Bowman came in, he endorsed Cori Bush, who was running against William Clay, and that made big news. That was like, oh, who the heck does this young boy think he is? William Clay had been in Congress for a number of years, and of course, Cori Bush won. and that made it real awkward. But my point is just to say that I think that if there's some intention to this conversation for me, it's to help our community to really start to think in a horizontal wide view, not necessarily straight up and down vertically, but like wide. Because we have these kids, I tell you, these little kids that are now, they're here for a different purpose. They're not playing. These little ones, I'm telling y'all, we're gonna have the youngest congressperson. We're gonna have the youngest Black girl. I'm telling you, 5 to 10 years, these little kids be in charge. And I really strongly do believe we have to make some type of bridge. I mean, we need to come. I know we have what's called Higher Heights, is a Black woman-centered organization to help Black women get into office. But I don't know that anybody's looking at the next generation, next gen type. Now, the white side, they have these organizations for young politicians. Us, we don't really have that. And I think part of the problem is that we don't think of young people in that position to really, like Sister Michelle said, it's like, look, you just got milk off your lip. Go sit down, you 18-year-old. You don't know nothing about, like, let the adults in the room handle this. But I think we're gonna have this whole generation of this rush. And at the same time, when you look at this article, our top politicians are 74 and above in the Black community. They're that same 5 to 10 years I'm talking about, they're gonna be gone. They're retiring. They're just going to. I don't see, maybe there'll be one that stays till he or she is 90, but the rest of them are or it's like slightly probably pushed out. But my point is that then you have these 44-year-olds who I don't know, that they really are intentionally looking back and saying an 18-year-old could take my spot next. So I think I want us to have that lens and to see hopefully the breadth and depth of the conversations. I appreciate everybody tuning in and everybody being a part of this conversation. To me, it's a very important conversation around young people and or what we expect our politicians to look like, sound like, how we expect them to handle themselves. And then us as voters, I love what Sister Michelle said. Unfortunately, we had in Philadelphia, we had someone who, for city council, who basically didn't put out a flyer or anything until that Monday of her election. Meanwhile, the new candidate, who not everybody, but a lot of people felt was run by gentrifiers, she was in the neighborhood every week. Like she was out there every week, and people were like, oh, of course she has to be because nobody knows who she is, right? Yeah, but she was out there for every apple run, every farmer's market, every high school. Jamie was out there. So when she won, it was a shock to everybody, but everybody lived in the neighborhood. It was like, dude, we did not see the incumbent at all. She had been in city council for 40 years. And, some people say, oh, she was advised wrong and stuff like that. But I go back to what Colin said. The sister that was the incumbent, when I met her at her retirement party, I was like, and she looked just worn out, and then now, before COVID, she was looking fly. She has a mayor's assignment for the mayor to do some things on the committee, and she was fired. She looked so much healthier and so much more alive. I know she's happy to be. Well, I should say I know, but at least her countenance looked like she was happy to be out of that seat. Anywho, thank y'all for discussing that. I want to turn our attention to our special guest, Brother Colin. For a minute now, I've been watching what you do on TikTok and stuff, and it's sort of like, correct me if I'm wrong, you're able to get these congressmen and congresswomen in a vulnerable state because they're walking across the street and they gotta make it to the other side before the red light hits. Is that the intent?
Oh yeah, you have to, you come from either the building on the house side or the senate side, and you have to come over and vote. And I've just made it. It's really like I've built a lot of relationships with many of them, and I say sometimes it was like where many of them, they know them inside. People know them, but their constituents back home, they don't know who their congressman or senator is. And I always, spoke to them that I can help them be relatable. And just, I've seen where the sit down interviews don't do as well. It's just like when you see in the magazines, they're just like us, that gets more eyeballs than just a regular sit down interview that, is scripted and the normal mill type of thing. So it was, always a different, types of a different out of the ordinary questions for them. And that helped me, build that type of relationship to show them I could humanize them. And I think, you have some of them that are really not just witty, but they have a different side of them as, you just don't look at them as from a political perspective. And what it does, it helps, you have some people who are just, they can talk on anything and just they're sincere. And then, I think it was a way of advancing, their profile and helping them, be able to relate back to their constituents back home. Because it would be, it would always be on topics related to their city and something that's happening there or something that's current news and incorporated with their city. So that's most of the time what I would talk to them about.
When I see you do interviews with Bernie Sanders, I've seen a number of them. He seems to like running away from you while you run next to him to catch him.
Bernie's just like how you see Bernie is. Bernie's the real. He's grouchy, but he's cool, and he's just like he's busy, but he's just he wanted to people that, like, when you see, and that was my thing, like, it's not how they are to me or to other reporters. You'll see how they are to fans who notice them that are visiting, outside of, whether it's outside of the White House or Capitol Hill, and if they take time to come over there, and they're just like real genuine. And I look at it like how when you see a celebrity and, they can be they play one of the great roles on TV and warm and loving and the sister next door, and you see them in real life, and as soon as they're coming off the plane or somewhere, and they see fans and they pick their phone up and put it to the air so they can't be bothered, and 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 you see the real ones that sit there and just really talk to people. They're just not out campaigning. Everybody can shake hands and kiss babies when they want your vote, but how are you, in the real when you're not out there, actually campaigning? And I see those ones all the time, and those are the ones that really last long. And those are the ones that are real personal and make people feel wanted when they come, up to Capitol Hill, and they get a one chance in that experience of seeing someone that they see on TV, and they like want to sit there and talk to them or just wave to them or take a photo with them. And, that really, you can just tell if this is a good candidate for real or they're about for the people. So that's the part like that always gets to me.
I feel like you also catch. I'm looking at your videos on TikTok, and you caught Lindsey Graham when he was at the airport. You caught him again when he was not, running towards Capitol Hill. Do you think if you are invited to sit down with Lindsey at his desk in his office, would he be the same person, or you're able to get him in a certain way because you are catching him outside, or you're catching him at the airport before he gets on the plane?
Yeah. I think it'll be more. It's too. I'll say, like, when you do the sit down interviews, like it doesn't ring off because it's more prepared and it's more like what you can ask them and what you can't. Where like outside, it's just they're more themselves. I think it's not like a bunch of the staffs and they're watching everything they say, and as soon as you ask them a certain question that's not on topic with their agenda or something like that, they're pushing away, and I think they, like I said before, they're like, I've had a powerful senator come up to me one time and tell me, he said I could have cured cancer and gotten on CNN, and I wouldn't have gotten as much publicity as when and I have so many friends and other people call me and say they saw me on there. And the only reason is because it's the crossover material. It's showing up different demeanor than the natural, suit and tie and just, prepared and speaking on cue to certain things. And this is what I think hurts a lot of candidates sometimes. They don't, they're always buttoned up in a way of like they're always going to stay on topic and not be genuine with, sometimes like if you look, and I always go back to AOC but what AOC has been able to do, she's one of the people, like she's stuck to who she is in a sense of you can ask her everything, whether she believes in it or not. She'll give her opinion and not like just waffle on the question. And she's been able to get to a point where she's used social media and she really understands it. And I think, some of the generation that's happening right now, they don't think they'll still go and do, let's just say buy media ads in the sense of traditional TV or radio. And that doesn't work as powerful as social media is happening right now. So in order to really stay ahead of the curve and, just be different, you have to watch and understand the way where things are headed right now. And I think some of the people who are really going to be around for a long time, those are the ones that's going to take advantage of that.
Got you. I want to have a little fun with you as we land a plane, as we're over 4 minutes. Out of Oprah's interview, the Oprah sound bites you got, the Warren Buffett and the Jeff Bezos one. Which one was your favorite?
Oh, you know, I'm a little over. You know what the thing is, and like I'll see, you know, and not to just, you know, sound shallow or anything, but I've worked on some of the big ones from like Queen Elizabeth, you know, King Charles, Dalai Lama, you know, Michael Jordan, any of them you name. But the thing about Oprah is who you see she is on TV. She's that straight, you know, and the thing about it, there'll be some like B-level or C-level TV person and who might have a little name and then you see them and then they shrug you off and like, you know, but, you know, Oprah is like the sister next door. You see her on TV is how she is in real life. Fans and, you know, regular people and even just, you know, giving interviews. She'll give her opinion. She'll talk. She'll laugh. She'll tell you about cooking, just anything that you could, you know, you could talk to her and ask her. And I think one of my best videos that I always felt like she was just so genuine was one time when I asked her, you know, what's the certain amount of money everybody always asks me for? And she literally said it. You know, she was just like, when I was, you know, just starting out, it would be, can I borrow? I forget the exact
$50.
Like,
You see that 50? Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then she went, and then she said, once I started getting out, then it was 50,000. Then it was, you know, but it was just her answering that question and how she answered it. And, you know, that's something that gets picked up, you know, worldwide because not just because of the amount of the money, the exact thing, is just her playful manner in it and just engaging. And I think with everything, once you get engagement with people, that's the key to everything. And that, you know, they drop down their guards and then that's becoming humanized again. And I think that's so important, especially with, you know, politicians today. Those are the ones and when you talk about the younger generation, I think they get it. And if you look, I saw an article the other day inside the Harvard Review, and they said what they're looking for now is now people, most of the CEOs, when they're looking for a hiring, it's not just education anymore. It's people who really understand social and, you know, talking with other people and really understanding how to relate more with the community right now.
Yeah, I definitely align with that. I think the emotional intelligence that this generation has. I watch my daughter, who's only, and she gets excited for this 2 Sesame Street songs. There's a number of celebrities that have Sesame Street songs. Common, Usher, John Legend. You know, she doesn't get excited for them. She gets excited for this one reggaeton singer. I think she thinks he's cute. She's like, yes. You know, it's like, little girl, she screams like she is happy with this, and it's a Spanish song, has a really great reggaeton beat and everything, and it's just interesting to see, you know, the emotional intelligence that this generation, Gen A, this is our generation, but Gen Z is the same way, and I think it's going to be we're in for a real fun next 20 years if we look at it the right way, and hopefully we're open. And as Sister Slaughter brought out, you know, if we can figure out the language so we don't shut down one group of our society for another group of the society, but we, you know, make it an embracive language. I think we're in for an interesting run. Brother Colin, I would appreciate if you have a downtown on a Sunday, if you could join us, that you have an open invitation. I put Colin's TikTok in our chat, so as requested from Sister Gwen, and also I put it on the top of the room. You can follow Colin over there. He has an Instagram also. You know, all you gotta do is just keep looking for 10G Colin anywhere on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. And do you have a Facebook page for yourself or no?
Yeah, just Colin Drummond. Just getting ready to start as big as Facebook. Actually, Facebook is coming back right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, Drummond. So y'all know to follow him and he's on this application. He's busy. You know, he's out, literally out in the streets for real, and every day showing up with video to show he was just outside. Everybody else running around. But appreciate your time, brother. All right, y'all. It's been a great evening. Us to definitely keep in mind our brothers and sisters in South Carolina and Florida. Keep them in your thoughts, your prayers, whenever you can. If you tap into someone that's needs something, if you can, help them out or let them know about resources you may not know about. I'm looking. I'm watching. I do. You know what? I gotta say this because I forgot about this one piece. I don't know if anybody caught Rubio, but Colin, did you see what Rubio said about the financial aid to Florida?
No. What did he say?
Now, let me set this up. Senator Marco Rubio is running against for his seat against a Black woman named Val Demings. Val Demings was a police chief. I believe her husband's a sheriff. Law enforcement. She's been a House representative. She still is a House representative, and they're both in Florida. We know what I just talked about happened in Florida. Today, Marco Rubio gets on television and said, if the bill to give Florida, that him and Senator Rick Scott both joined together and said we need financial aid ASAP, because they're saying this is one of the worst or the worst hurricane that Florida has hit Florida, possibly because of some of the flooding that's happening right now. And someone who was just there where the flooding is essentially happening was just on another room explaining how the flooding is happening and is the wind and damage happened, but now hit from the floodwaters. Marco Rubio said he will not sign any bill that has anything other than financial aid for Florida. Now you're in a fight. He's not far ahead of Val Demings. I believe there are almost like 2 to 3 points difference between the two of them. So he's in this fight of his life. I think he could have just kept his mouth shut and just did exactly what he's doing, oppose the bill. But he decided to say that he's going to oppose any bill that puts forth anything other than financial aid for Florida. Meaning, if there's other fat or pork, he's not going to sign it. He did the same thing with Hurricane Sandy and something else he did, and he got lambasted. Now you're running for election this year though, and Florida just had you don't hear DeSantis. DeSantis hasn't said a word in the last 6 days. Zip, not a word, except to declare a next state of emergency. That's it. He hasn't said one thing about nothing. Here comes Marco Rubio. So I don't know. I feel like I think it was a toss up. I don't see the strategy in it. And Val Demings is not anybody to play with. She's a trained sniper. Like part of her police training, her level was to go through sniper training. Like, she got him in her sights. And I'm not saying, but I'm saying he's a target. And what he just said paints a real big target. And all you got to do is take the clip. Marco Rubio, your senator, says he's not going to give you financial aid for our state. Well, we just hit the most devastating storm in the last 30 years. I don't know that. I don't understand it. I'm happy he did it because I love to see Val Demings in the Senate, and she's no joke. I talked to them numerous times, and they're a good couple who really believe strongly in the democracy that we have. But any thoughts on that, Colin, or anybody else on the stage?
Yeah, somebody else could go too. But I'm kind of curious as far as Rubio, being, as far as he's a veteran. He actually was the Speaker of the House in Florida too, so he has to know something and the reason why they're setting up something for him just going off, just really jumping in, because a lot of times when they're against something like that, even though they voted against it many times, when it comes to if you look at Ray Cole did the same thing,
right.
It happened in Kentucky. He was like, oh no, everything I said before doesn't matter, but Kentucky needs money.
Right, exactly.
You had the storm, and you got to take care of that. But for Rubio to really still be against it, yeah, that is peculiar too. I agree with you on that. But he has to have some type of strategy toward what he's going to come back and say afterwards.
Yeah, I think he's gonna back the, like, DeSantis, talking about cross party lines and how everybody's been able to collaborate and put their politics aside. And it just reminds me of how Governor Christie was in New Jersey before Sandy, and how after Sandy, he was Obama's biggest cheerleader because he needed all of that aid to help build that. And because of that, some Republicans have never forgiven him.
Yes. Yep.
If you look at how Florida is, like, I literally had this conversation in another room, and I said, he's not probably got the full grasp of all of the areas that have been devastated. And it's just looking at, like, your middle income low, he is really missing the point, because one of the areas that got hit really bad is where the super affluent live, Naples. Definitely want to make that they get taken care of. That is your baby. It's fun, everything you do. And for him not to realize that, somebody just hasn't reached him. He's gonna make an about face.
Or I would love. Let's do a 50 cent bet. I bet that he doubles down. I think he has traditional. I can't even say the word. He has traditionally some errors in his campaigns. And I don't know, if it's the ancestors or what. I know Val Demings is over doing the happy dance. He's doing, I know campus like, yes! Oh, and it's so close to the election. And we can run it. All they gotta do is run that ad over and over and over again every day until November. It's like, dude, what? But at the same time, everything happens for a reason. So it should be. I will bet you that he doubles down. I don't think he's gonna backpedal. The way he said it, and he was firm like that I'm honest. I am an honest Republican, an honest honest politician. And it was like, oh, okay, Marco.
He can spin it, and he can say he's a stand-up person when he believes one way. It doesn't happen. He's just not going to be like some of these other politicians and switch up. When the rooster comes home, and it happens, in his house now, and then he'll start bringing up, numbers and a deficit, and doing all these things. But what's going to be interesting is to see how he responds when I think when President Biden comes there next week.
Yeah,
that's when we'll see. Is he going to stand beside him, or is going to stand, with Biden? Because even though at that point when Christie did it, Christie was becoming a big candidate when he was running for president. That thing didn't happen with in Jersey with Penn Line and doing all the things with the bridge. He was in a great position, honestly, because he had something.
He was DeSantis before DeSantis.
Didn't even look at him as a Republican. They
right.
thought he was a Democrat or a Republican.
Right.
So it kind of helped him. But he just went overboard with, his just, how he is, brash and everything like that. So that's going to be interesting.
That's good. You can set the tone for us for next week to us to check out and see what happens. And then also, I would love to see if Val Demings uses this. She's a consummate professional too. So she may not use this per se. I'm sure there's a political PAC that's going to use it though. But, yeah, it should be. I mean, I think I keep going in my head to Rubio's sweating, and drinking that water. When I don't know if he took Molly, I don't know what happened, but he looked horrible, and that was yes, that was Richard Nixon against JFK. That was that moment where Nixon looked horrible on camera, kept sweating like just looks gross. And I was like, wow, Rubio, you having a Richard Nixon moment? Like, it's kind of early in career for this. But at the same time, he's run for president a couple times. So I guess, it's not early in his career. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. All right, y'all. I did want to just talk about that for a minute. thank you for indulging me. And definitely, if you have any political articles that we should be talking about, or we should be, knowing what's going on, definitely hit us up. Let us know. We'll be back here tomorrow night for our Black Money News night. And of course, we'll have hopefully Sister Miki and Brother Troy with us, and more things to talk about. Please keep your head on a swivel. We know that we're targets in our own neighborhood. If your intuition says leave, please leave. Don't second guess yourself. Get out of that situation and protect your safety. And always, as we say, please keep your head on a swivel. And lastly, we always say when we end the room, stay black, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, stay black. Later, guys.
Okay, y'all, we are clear. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. And again, this is Your Black News, and we do this every night. We're normally on KBCN TV, which airs us out to Roku and to Amazon Fire. So if you go to Roku and download the KBCN TV, I always mess it up. KBCN TV, you'll see us. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Be safe. Please, please keep your head on the swivel.